9:30 on the East Coast, and it's time for part two. We are running a bumper, yes, and recording, and we're looking at the streaming server. It is connected and in sync with all the destinations. So, JD is standing by, our chat room is standing by. Let's count down to good old faithful Studio 8. Well, good evening. This is pjnet.tv. It says so right over there. And this is Thursday. It is 9:30 on the East Coast. It is time to take a trip around, the Cross W. There's his brand, is his brand. The Cross W Ranch, the caretaker of which is J.D. Wininger, and what a blessing it is each week for us to bring him on the big stage tonight, going back to an old one that we've had. We used it for, a year or two, and then I started making all these new ones. I just wanted to go back to the good old days of the big screen. And JD, there you are. Folks, JD Wininger, aside from being so handsome, blogs. He blogs at jdwininger.com, and I should move that down a little bit, but I'll do that later. JD, before we get started on your blog this week, I want to go back a week when you talked about vision problems, because today is day 3. I have been wearing my brand new prescription glasses.
Okay.
I have been using the $15 CVS brand readers.
The readers, okay.
Yeah, and there's a bug in here. I'm experiencing some of what you wrote in your blog, because now when I drive at night, I can see I could always see the speed limit. I just couldn't read what it said above it and below it. I saw the numbers, and you don't realize just how deteriorated your vision has become because it happens so gradually. But it's like there's a whole new world. And these, by the way, have some kind of treatment on the lens that reduces the glare from the computer screen. And anybody
the blue light.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
And of course, I have numerous countermeasures I take against that. But it's nice to know. And now I wear them full time. I didn't realize how much time I was losing doing this. Put my glasses up.
Yes.
Hold on. So it's like having new vision. It really is spectacular. But that was last week. This week, you had an experience like I think we've all had. If you haven't, you need to seek these experiences.
Oh, because I hope you
do. You call them God hugs, I believe.
Heart hugs.
Heart hugs, okay, from
heart
God,
hugs.
But
Yeah, God just grabs my heart and just reaches inside my chest and just squeezes the world out of me, Coach. That's the way I like to put it, And they become addictive, folks. I tell you, if you've not yet experienced quiet, peaceful time where you just surrender yourself to God. If you've not experienced those moments in your life, you got to find that time to do this. And once you do, you'll never want to quit doing it. I promise you that. It's the best part of my day, whether that's an afternoon and me and Bubba pull up under the pine trees and just listen to the breeze, or that's after we fed and we sat up on top of the hill there on the western edge of our property, and we just look east to watch the sunrise, and it's just so quiet and peaceful and things, and you just surrender yourself to the moment. You just surrender yourself and say, Papa, I just want to crawl up in your lap and just sit with you for a little while. Man, is that such a wonderful feeling, Coach. And I got to have one of those. It was about 21 degrees out that morning. We'd gotten about a quarter inch of snow, Coach. So that was a lot for Texas. But this happened before the big storm came. That was a few weeks back. But I'm driving between pastures, between my front yard and the pasture. I just have a little road that I've built up, and it leads out to the barn and the barnyard and out to the front or back pasture. where I've got the mama cows and the calves and things. Actually, they hadn't started calving yet when this photograph that I used in the blog was taken. But I looked out, and it was just so beautiful and peaceful with the snow nestled in the boughs of the tree. Everything was quiet. Even the cows was quiet this morning, Coach. And I just felt the need to stop. I just felt an overwhelming urge. Just stop right here in the middle of nowhere. So I stopped, and before I even reached to turn the key off, Bubba just laid down. Normally he sits and he's got his head right here on my chest. You know, he worms his way under my right arm, and then he puts his head right there on my chest, and that's where he rides. But he immediately just laid down, placed his face on, or his chin on my lap, you know, and just quieted down. And we just sat there in the silence, and I just closed my eyes and I just listened to God. And I just felt his presence envelop me. I didn't feel cold. I mean, it was pretty cold at like 21 degrees out there. In fact, it was so cold that I realized tears had frozen on my cheek and partially frozen. So when I wiped them off, they kind of pulled skin a little bit, you know.
Chipped them off.
But gosh, it just felt good to just sit there for, and it was only a few minutes, but it felt like I was there for an hour, Coach. It just wonderful because I was just refreshed and comfortable and at ease and at peace for the entire rest of that day. Even had a couple of things, fires crop up that always do around a farm. Miss Catherine alluded to that. If it ain't broke, it's fixing to be. So you know, there's always something to do. But everything that came my way that day, I just handled it with ease, and there was just a general peace within me. And that's almost supernatural, Coach, when you can have a day like that, because normally the world starts creeping in, and it just it robs you of your peace. You know, Satan's favorite pastime is to see how much he can torque us up during the day, right? and disrupt our walk in faith. I truly believe that. So he wasn't very happy because I just gave him a big old turd burger to eat that day because I'm just going to sit there and just revel in the peace that God has given me, that he placed inside me that morning. Man, when you have those moments, Coach, you never want them to end. You never want to go a day without them. So I actually look for opportunities, and sometimes I'll pull in from a drive or run to the feed store or something. I'll stop at the end of my drive and just sit there and turn the music off and just turn the truck off and just sit there for a few minutes. Okay, Lord, I need your peace, you know. Just come on, God, just you and me. Yeah, and it's just the most wonderful few minutes of rest you can find throughout a day, Coach.
Though several words come to my mind: commune with God. But Jesus spoke of abiding in Him, and those moments that you were describing in your blog reminds me of abiding. And I'm glad you didn't preempt what I'm about to say, because there was a line in your blog that really impacted me, and it may not impact most people, but let me try to tee it up.
Okay.
I've heard it said that pain is weakness leaving the body. That is attributed again to the Marine Corps, but I'm not so sure that it is exclusive to the Marine Corps. Well, when I was losing weight, and I would get on that elliptical machine, literally puddles of sweat would drip off of me. I would literally have to mop up the floor. And as the pain is leaving, is the weakness leaving the body, the sweat, I thought of it as like fat that has become liquefied, and it is leaving the body.
Yes.
Okay. But in your blog, you described in more prolific words the tears of a heart hug Do you remember?
Yes, sir. I do, because that's exactly what happens when I get a heart hug. I mean, they invoke tears. It's just a natural response. And I liken it to, and I've said this for a lot of years now, when I coined this term, heart hugs, is those tears are actually God squeezing the world out of me. So it's His way of purifying my heart, Coach, with His love and His peace. And you know, you can't fill, you can't pour into something that's already full, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to squeeze the world out, and then with that void, you can fill it with God's peace and His love and His grace, and the goodness and kindness, and all the wonderful fruits of the Spirit and the different spiritual gifts that He bestows upon us. But you have to make room for that, and God does that through heart hugs, I believe. That's how we, at least for me, that's how He cleans out my spirit, Coach. You know,
Well, now you've
I
given
need to
me
make some room for you, JD.
you've given me a new image now, because
Okay.
if you've ever used a sponge to wash dishes,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you've got the soapy water, and then when you're done, you squeeze the sponge, and you know, but the soapiness in the very, very core of that sponge is still soapy. So you've got to not just squeeze it. I mean, you got to squeeze that thing until you see that foam coming out.
Yeah.
And then what I do is, while it's still compressed, I then run it under the water and let the water expand it from the core outward.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that like our heart, the heart hugs that you described?
Sure.
The crust and that accumulates, from the world, isn't just on the outside.
That's
It gets in. It gets in through our eyes. It gets in through our ears. And the Bible says the mouth speaks out that which fills the heart.
Yeah.
So it's down. You know when it's down there, because when you hit your thumb with the hammer, see, that comes from your very core.
or bounce hay off a wheelbarrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. We need that cleansing. We need that.
That's right.
Well, I was gonna. I won't say what I was gonna say. See me after class, and I'll explain.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Having to do with cleansing, okay.
I
But
absolutely understand, sir. Yes.
the moments that you record in your blog, I think, we've all had moments where we see something and it kind of stops us. It grabs our attention, and we begin to lose focus. The world around us kind of fades.
Yes.
And it helps connect us directly, to the Father.
Yeah.
But how many of us do like you do, and how often do we do? And should we improve in the area where we don't need to just react to those things when they happen, although we do, but we need to seek out.
That's right.
Okay, we need to make time available. This can be a devotional time. It can be time. I would not necessarily suggest while you're at a stoplight, because you can kind of get absorbed in this and upset some people behind you. And your reaction to them blowing the horn might not be good for your Christian testimony. But but I get to work early. If I'm due somewhere, I try to get there at least 20 minutes ahead of time. That means, one, I don't have to hurry on the way. That enables God to speak to me, because sometimes it's just driving down the road. Instead of focusing only on the traffic, you can see the frost over the field and the mist that covers that frost. And you can see, like a pond, the fog is moving toward the center, and then a column. And you begin to not just see, but you begin to experience the wonder of the creation. And it reminds us that, how small we are in perspective, but yet how important we are, that God would have his son die on a cross for our broken handles, for our fences that need mending. And so plan for them. Get there early and take a moment. Turn off the radio. You can get enough. You can get that anytime. But listen to the geese. Listen to the birds. Listen to the dog barking in the distance. Whatever it is, but tune in and become more at one with our surroundings. So it was a very peaceful moment for me, and I enjoyed it. And I kind of needed that. I'm strung tight as a banjo most of the time.
And, Coach, we don't have to be out here in the middle of God's country to do this either. I know our previous guest, Miss Catherine, lives and works on the farm, and we have a little ranch here and things. But I think of my buddy, Dell Didway, or our friend, Mr. Dell. And one of the favorite posts that he does is he's got his feet up, there's a fire pit in the foreground, and he's got a cup of coffee in his hand. And normally that's a sunset or a sunrise. I'm not sure which,
They do look the same.
It's just a wonderful, peaceful view. And one of the greatest blessings I have is that my den, where I'm at now, faces east. So I get to look out, and just about the time I finish with my prayer time, which is the last part of what I call my God time. I start with Bible reading, and then go through some devotionals, and then I go through my daily prayer list. And that can take 30 minutes or so sometimes. But about the time I finish and I raise my head up and I look over my laptop, I look out the front window, and that's when dawn is just coming up. I mean, the sky is this beautiful orange and pink and gray, and it's never the same each day. And that's a perfect time for just to seek out a heart hug and I'm just lost in it. God, you made this beautiful view for me just today. Thank you, Lord. And just spend a few minutes with him. I have a poem called "My Father's Arms," and I wrote it back in 77, 78 for my adopted dad. Or at least I thought that I wrote it for my adopted dad. And it just kind of talks about how you just crawl up in his lap, because that's the one place where I can just be me. And, that's what God invites us to do every day. He begs us for that relationship. He created us for that relationship, Coach. And we need to seek out those times and just cherish those moments, because I like to think that they're little glimpses of what's to come, Coach. What's it going to be like on that day when we get to spend every waking moment of eternity in God's presence? Isn't that just going to be a wonderful thing, Coach?
It is a glimpse into eternity, because, as you're saying this, I have these fond memories. My grandfather on my father's side died when I was very, very, very young. But I remember when we used to go visit, after a meal, he had a special chair and little area that he sat. And I would get up in his lap, and he would reach over there, and he would pack his pipe with that sweet tobacco that had such an aroma to it, and I remember, he loved having his grandchild, sit in his lap. And I remember the day he gave me a pocket knife.
Oh my.
Man, because now you're a man, see.
Yeah.
And I was only I was only 7 or 8. And I remember going home, I was in the back seat, and I said, Papa gave me a knife. Well, my mother became concerned because I was a little too young for a knife. She said, let me see it. Well, I was too young to understand there was a nude woman engraved. She took that knife from me. I never saw it again.
Oh,
And I'm sure he got a lecture on.
well, I have a little different memory, and that was the first plug of chewing tobacco, about 7 years old, and let's try that. You just beg. But isn't it funny with our grandpas or folks like that, and I have a little different background, so it's tough. But isn't it funny how we can associate just when we think of them? There's that smell, the sweet smelling apple cured tobacco that he
Hmm.
smoked, or whatever that was, and you just associate smells. Doing grandpas or grandparents just have a smell about them
Hmm.
that is unique and special, and you never lose that, do you, Coach?
Yeah.
And I believe that God, and God's word says that He planted eternity in our hearts. And I believe that in those moments when I experience a heart hug, that creates that same visceral moment, or that uh, memory of what it's like that He planted there. That's
Hmm.
that's still there, and that's where, like I say, I get that little glimpse of eternity, or I get that little glimpse of heaven. This is a preview of what's to come, child.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it goes on and on. It's
yes,
not just a fleeting moment as we have memories of and a little glimpse of.
that's
But
right.
so that first plug of tobacco, was that Cannonball?
No, I'll be honest. I don't remember what it was, Coach. But I know I begged and begged and begged for that, and was sick for like 3 days, because
Well,
I never realized you were supposed to swallow that stuff, right?
well, I remember the day when tobacco was packaged in what amounted to a plug. They call it a brick.
Hmm.
Probably
Yes.
let's just say about the size of a deck of cards or a pack of cigarettes, something like that. But
Hmm.
it was very compacted. There was a lot of tobacco in there, so you
Yeah.
would typically cut it with your knife
Yep.
and just cut a little plug. And well, I had some Cannonball in my pocket, and a friend had apparently run out. He said, "Can I have a plug of your Cannonball?" Well, I really didn't want him mooch. I wanted him to buy his own. So I took
Hmm.
licked one side of it and handed it to him.
Uh,
Well,
that ain't right.
my friend was actually much smarter than me. He looked at it, flipped it over, licked the other side, and handed it back to me and said, "No thanks."
Oh,
He
goodness.
got me.
Oh, the follies of youth.
But yeah, I can remember. I mean, oh gosh, just so many good memories. If we'll only pause a moment, I think that is the lesson. And I hope that as you watch and hear and see this, I hope that memories like that of your own are coming to mind. And I think we should not only cherish those memories, but so often we don't cherish them until they are in fact memories, and we fail to
Gone.
have that abiding spirit in the moment. We
Yeah.
are redoing our backyard. It was a disaster, and
Mm.
the sod is down, and it is now. You can't see pictures of it until my wife releases them when we're finally finished. Okay, but I can say this: what was a patch of nothing but weeds and sand, and now has a beautiful privacy fence. A little. So tonight was our first night just sitting out in our backyard for dinner, and I
Nice.
thought to myself, abide in this moment because there are so few, and
Yes, sir.
they are so
That
fleeting.
kind of great segue to one of the takeaway questions, or one of my tweet storms, whatever you want to call it, is how peaceful are our mornings, and how many times do we just wake up in a tizzy? Oh my God, I've got 96 things to get done today, and I start organizing my day before I even get the coffee maker turned on, right? Or do we start the day with calm and peace? And then another thought is, how do we end that day? Do we, uh, God, I'm glad this day is over, or wash your face and go to bed? But your mind just keeps racing, and it keeps replaying all the things that went wrong and all the things that happened. or do you seek time with God and seek His peace? And the verse that just jumped out to me was John 14:27, Coach, when Christ said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives to you, do I give it to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And especially in today's world, Coach, there's so much fear that is just running rampant. Fear over politics and what's this dingbat doing now, and what's
Mm-hmm.
this happening, and that. And is there mask? No mask. Is there vaccine? No vaccine. And oh no, we're vaccine or we're masked until 2023. And well, China now's got a vaccine card. I saw that today. I think Mr. Steve actually had that post. Our friend Steve Hazard. They've got a card that you can't travel from geographic region to region within China unless you can prove that you've been vaccinated. And well, is that coming to America next? I argue it is, right? You won't be able to ride Amtrak unless you can show your vaccine card. You won't be able to fly United or Delta unless you show your vaccine card. I'm sure glad I got a pickup truck that can drive anywhere.
And you know what? I can enjoy God's country driving down the road, and my truck is as good as I can from 30,000 feet, and give me more time to commune.
Take me a little longer to get there, but I don't have to deal with everything and everybody else either. It's like you said, that's a great time to commune with God. Now, you want to be careful, and I always talk about situational awareness, knowing what's going on around you, right? But I find when I'm driving and I'll listen to worship music or it's just quiet and I'm just talking with God, how I'm surprised at how many times I call it spiritual awareness, because I'll suddenly become aware my foot will come off the accelerator because here comes this old guy pulling out on a tractor ahead of me, and he's making a wide right because he's got a trailer full of hay or something. And I'm not paying attention. I would not have seen that. But poof, right in your head, and you just instincts take over and you avoid situations. And so I call that spiritual awareness. Sometimes you just gotta listen, because God will take care of you when you're in those moments.
What about when you're in a hurry, which many of us are too often?
Oh, yeah.
And you get somewhere and there's a train. And you stop. And you just chew on the steering wheel, madder than a hornet. Folks,
or you start thinking of ways to get around it.
Yeah. That's one way. But, folks, you might as well just spend that time as an opportunity to spend it with God. Pick up, you can't text and drive, but you're in park now. So maybe you can send that text that you should send, just reminding a brother or sister in Christ that you're thinking about them. Make spiritual opportunities out of even the bad situations. When the traffic jam, the railroad crossing that that train comes by once a day, and dadgummit, right?
Gets it every
time. I hadn't used this road in 10 years, and the one time I used this road, here it comes, And I literally had that happen.
Or the long checkout line at the Walmart.
There you go. Yeah, but have you noticed if a train, how you kind of bend your neck around to kind of look back, like, the train will go by faster if you'll look down to see if the caboose is coming, And if you're waiting on a friend and he's late, if you'll walk outside and look down the road, he'll get there sooner.
Yeah, it's kind of like waiting on that pot to boil, letting it go.
Yeah, we are incredibly stupid,
We're creatures of habit, no doubt.
Well, JD, it's been a wonderful time just sharing with you tonight. Thank you for the time you put in, not only in your blog, but the time you put in reading others' blogs and sharing those on Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. And I don't have the time to read all that I should, but I always know if JD puts it out there, if I have time to read some, you kind of cull the list out a little bit. You kind of give it a little intro.
I tell you, I sure enjoyed Miss Catherine's blog this week. She just hit the nail on the head. In fact, I had commented on it. I said, man, I hate change, you know. I said, but I have a special kind of OCD, Miss Catherine. It's called CDO. You know, it's like OCD, but it's alphabetical, like it's supposed to be, right? I'm that bad, and Miss Diane will attest to this, I'm afraid. You know, change one thing in the recipe, that's it. I'm not eating dinner. You know,
Yeah.
you can't. It ain't made right. You know, you didn't do it right, and I'm that bad sometimes. But what I really loved about Miss Catherine's blog was that she didn't just quit and give up. Oh, geez, you know, or here, let me just break off a couple of flakes of hay, or that's the small portions. When they make square bells, it folds upon one another, folks. So it's you know, just an accordion, if you will.
Yeah, I know.
It's just folded, and you can break them off into just a little 1.5 inch flakes. We call them. Other people call them tips, you know, because you just break them off the tip of your finger. You know, and that'll sustain a horse for an hour, you know, maybe. And she could have done that, but she didn't. Instead, as you pointed out, she adapted, she improvised, and she overcame. So I could just picture and you know, she's strong and healthy and full of vigor, but I can just picture her, one hand on that the back of that tub of that wheelbarrow, and the other hand out here on the handle, trying to balance
wobbling that thing. Yeah,
couldn't have been very coordinated to have
right.
watched.
And every step you take, your shin hits the butt, the little, you know, the rest at the back. You know, you get nicked up.
Yeah. But she didn't give up, and she persevered, and she drove through it. She found a way to complete the task, and that's the same thing that God wants us to do, isn't it? So I just thought it was a wonderful object lesson that she shared with us this week, Coach.
And I like it. And your blog is characteristic of this as well. You know, that there's always a picture illustration that goes with a blog. That's standard, you know, but I tend to like the ones that are organic like that are, you know, you took that picture, it's from your place. And, you know, there's Pixabay, there's a million places to get stock pictures. Yeah. But I doubt there's any stock pictures of a wheelbarrow with a broken handle. But again, I'll repeat, you know, you can let the situation impact you, but you need to impact the situation, because we've got to take control. And it changes. It's a different way of approaching things, because we can't be manipulated by the circumstances. We have to take who's in charge of our happiness. Whose decision is it? Okay, it's not yours or mine.
Exactly right, Coach.
It's our own decision to go through life joyful with a smile on our face and a bounce in our step, or complaining, moaning, and groaning as a victim. Whatever the case may be, we each decide how we feel. And if we ain't feeling right, well, maybe we ought to get right, and maybe that might mean turning off the key to the car.
That's right.
Putting it in park.
Well, Coach,
you know.
Thank you for letting me share with you this week, buddy. And thank you, everyone at chat room and out there on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube hanging with us this evening. Seek those moments. Look for those heart hugs, folks. God bless everyone.
You're the best, JD. Thank you. It's always great spending time with JD on Thursday night, and I hope you enjoy not only this time that we have together, but his blog as well, and all that. Well, there it is, folks. The view from the Eagle's Nest high atop the broadcast facilities of pjnet.tv. Let me just share with you a couple of things. I know it's late and all that, but many of you hang around, and I appreciate your long suffering. But there's some things I can't say, but I'm so excited about them. I want to at least make mention of the fact that some good things are coming about. You've heard me mention that Doug Carter is desiring to find a place on the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina's task force on indoctrination in the education system. And I pledged to Doug that I would do everything in my power, which is limited, to do whatever I can to help him secure that position. And I have made announcements like that. I have appealed to all of you to do the same, because I believe that, I just believe it's God's will. And I told Doug, I said, it probably will be a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. I said, of course I wrote to the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but I'm not holding my breath. Del Didway mentioned a friend of his, or actually a client of his, that he recommended to appear on our program. And I hadn't followed up on it. I received a text from the friend of Del Didway. Well, I called him back today, and we wound up speaking for about an hour. You ever talk to somebody you feel like you've known them all your life, not just an hour? He has the telephone number of the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. He has the telephone number of the Chief of Staff of the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. And I shared with him what I've shared with you all, that Doug Carter, I believe, is the man to be on that committee, or have some place at that table, whatever that may be. And he asked me to send information to him about that. Wouldn't that be awesome? Now, I didn't do that, folks. How many opportunities are there that we just think they're just a bridge too far, just out of reach, and we don't even try? We don't even try. We give up without a fight. And that was part of the subject matter that we spoke with. And the gentleman's name is Lee Weeks. And we have penciled him in. It's not final yet, but we have penciled him in. By the way, he is the editor of Decisions magazine of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. You reckon he's got a credential or two? You reckon he knows a few people? And he was very, very complimentary. He's visited our chat room. He's never logged in. He might be there now. I don't know. But he has visited our chat room, and he has seen what you all do with each other and for the kingdom. And it just gives me a renewed sense of purpose. Because I'll be honest with you, the burdens of all that we do, you only see the tip of the iceberg. For every minute of programming that you see, there's probably an hour of work that somebody put in. And sometimes you feel overwhelmed. My whiteboard, there's not room to put anything else on it. And yet I took the time to read Catherine Paysauer's blog, and it brought me peace. I took the time to read JD's blog, and it brought me peace. And the time we spend here together, I hope brings you peace. I hope it brings you strength. I hope it brings you hope. I hope it brings you inspiration and encouragement. That's what we do here, and thanks for being a part of it. Best kept secret on the internet, I keep telling everybody. I see a cockroach on the other wall. It's very distracting. What a sweet week it's been. I will be taking the night off on Friday nights, as I always do. Steve Hazards takes the helm, and he starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. Plays some really nice music videos between 9 and 10, and he will, around 10 o'clock, uncork his program called My Perspective and Comments. It has become quite the popular program here on pjnet.tv, and I am so glad. Steve has been with us forever. He was one of the three in our chat room. Myself, Sunbelt Girl, and Hazards 4. Day after day, week after week, when there was no guest on that screen. There really was no reason to be here other than he believed, not in me, but in the vision and the purpose of pjnet.tv. Wonderful time, and I hope you'll join him tomorrow night. And I get to take the night off and, well, do some work while I keep the chat room open and all that. But anyway, thank you, Steve, for all that you do. Thank you for your faithfulness and hanging in there when there was no reason to. I really, really am moved by that kind of faithfulness. You know what I'm about to say, don't you? I have two questions I'd like you to ask yourself. The first one is, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And then, when was that? I hope that none of us will be satisfied with our answers.